Hi guys, so today talking about a pretty open topic, which is the biggest financial mistakes that I've made in my business. And believe me, there's quite a few. Now, I wish I'd known this stuff before I started coaching, as I would have put myself in a much better situation. I'm going to talk about 7 of these mistakes I made, certainly within the first few years of my business, that honestly almost bankrupted my business. And I was very lucky to make it through unscathed. Now, if this is sort of content that you like, where it's like open, transparent, teaching you how to grow a business, all the mistakes that I made so you can avoid them, how to become a better coach, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, whether that's on the podcast or YouTube. I'd really appreciate it. It allows me to keep doing this. So if you take a lot of value from this content, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, and it would mean a lot to me. So I'll get into this 7 points, and really hopefully you guys will avoid these mistakes. And if you've experienced any of them, I can only apologize. I didn't make this video earlier. So number 1, I didn't save any tax in the first few years of my business. So just to paint a picture, I'd gone from a PAYE. So for any of my foreign listeners outside the UK, that means pay as you earn. It means you get taxed straight away on your income. And national insurance, tax, all gets taken for your paycheck, and what you get in your bank account is your money. And that's what I was used to. I was used to that for about 12 years, being paid a salary, and everything was mine to spend. Now, I was on a good amount of money. I was on about 100k a year, 6 figures, and it was a good amount of money. I wasn't struggling, and I went into my coaching first year. I was earning more than that, but the mistake that I made, even though I had more disposable income realistically, I treated my business bank account like a personal bank account. I wasn't separating off that tax and national insurance. I was treating everything like it was my money. So whereas I should have been saving, I was spending it all. And when it came to actually my first tax season, I had very little saved up to pay that tax payment. And of course, the HMRC came after me. I didn't have that money available, and I basically was in a not great situation where I had to pay on installments for the next period of time. So it went from maybe another 9 months of paying a monthly payment to catch up on my tax, alongside having to save the tax in the first place, which really impacted me. So for the tax for the next payment. So I was over saving massively to compensate for the stupid spending that I'd had before. So I just wasn't saving the tax, and it really impacted me. And if I hadn't had a business that was growing in that time, say it declined, I would have been massively behind the 8 ball, and it could have been a time I would have gone bankrupt. And I look back at that time thinking, how stupid could I have been? But I am not alone in this. I'm certainly not an outlier on this one. I know a lot of friends it's happened to, a lot of other coaches, a lot of people that have come into my business as a mentee. They've done something similar, and they paid the price. And a lot of things we'll talk about today is like keeping up with appearances. You're spending money because you feel like you have to, or just not being wise to what you need to do in a business. So that was definitely one of those things. And I would honestly advise you, get a business bank account where you can separate off into a pot. So Metal, Monzo, whatever it may be, just separate that tax off and don't spend it. Like, really, don't do that. Don't do what I did. Don't do what I've seen so many people do, where you're going to end up behind the 8 ball and potentially actually going to put your business at risk of going under if you don't continue to grow. So that's number 1. Number 2 is don't spend money on dumb shit, just like me. So the first thing I did when I got the business was, when I went full-time self-employed, I bought a BMW M4, which is not a cheap car. It's not outrageous. It's not an outrageous sports car, but it's not cheap. I mean, that plus fuel, insurance, tax was probably costing me $1,200, $1,500, depending on how many miles I did per month, which is not an insignificant amount of money. I upgraded my sort of clothing, everything like that. I was going on loads of holidays and living most of the year out of the country. Ibiza multiple times, Marbella, spent most of the summer out in Europe, just traveling around and just spending money, way too much money than I needed to spend. and it wasn't good. That's probably contributed to why I got into the tax situation in the first place. But just spending money on dumb shit, stuff that I didn't need to buy. And again, a lot of this I think is like keeping up with appearances online. You see other coaches doing, you think you need to do the same. The amount of coaches I know that's got like Rolexes on finance and things like that, which thankfully I never got into. Not really a watch guy. I'm happy with my Garmin, but I certainly spent more money than I probably needed to, and that goes into point number 2, which was immediately upgrading my lifestyle. It's not just spending money on dumb shit, but it's like upgrading everything. Oh, I now need the latest insert thing here, and in reality, that is absolutely not what you need to do. My advice to anyone new now is wait. So don't spend money on dumb shit, and don't try and upgrade your lifestyle. If you think, okay, now I'm going to start flying business, now I need that new car, now I need the latest, I don't know, headphones, phone, whatever it may be, you don't wait, because you never know if that good month is going to continue. If you do pay in full, you might get one big month, and you might not have a number of months where you're going to get anything coming into the business after that. You just don't know what's around the corner. Wait 6 to 12 months before you start to upgrade your lifestyle. Save a bit of money. Don't do what I did and upgrade straight away. And again, I put this all down to the fact, if my business hadn't grown consistently, I would probably be bankrupt. I would have probably had to put my business under, because there were times, like I said, I couldn't pay my tax. There was times where the only thing that got me out of it was the consistent growth of my business. And then the knowledge that I did catch it just in time, where it didn't snowball and snowball and snowball. I got it just before it became a problem. And I kept making money to just get myself out of it. And only until about a couple of years ago, when I actually found that structure, when I wasn't consistently overpaying, saving tax whilst paying off my last years. And a large part wasn't saving it, was spending money on dumb shit, and I upgraded my lifestyle way too quickly. Don't do that. Don't do that. Number 4, it kind of goes hand in hand, is don't upgrade your business too soon. The amount of times I see people spending money on stuff they do not need in their business. So they start their business, they're not even making much money at all. Right, I need a professional videographer. I need a new laptop. I need a new phone. I need the latest of everything. And in reality, you don't. All you need when you start coaching is a laptop and a phone and an internet connection. You can do everything off that. You do not need designed logos. You do not need a custom app. You do not need a VA. You do not need all these other things. You can do it very, very cheap. And I've done a video on how to have a coaching business for less than £100. I've done videos on this, so please check them out. And I've done videos where I've done a deep breakdown of my costs as a multi-6-figure business. So you can see where I spend money, and it's actually not that much. So you can do it relatively cheap. Don't fall into that trap where you upgrade everything. And I did some dumb stuff. I had a videographer when I didn't need one. I was paying for stuff when I absolutely didn't need to. Thankfully, it's all taken care of now. I've got this nice office set up. But listen, before I'd even gone full-time online, I'd got myself a new laptop, got a desk, which is nearly £1,000, a chair, which is 400. I was upgrading these things. I'm like, man, looking back, I was lucky. So I wish I hadn't done that. Number 5 is getting the wrong accountant. I had a bad accountant. I won't name any names or drag anyone through the mud, but my accountant almost, if I wasn't very lucky, almost cost me multiple tens of thousands in tax, because they got my tax bill and my self-assessment tax wrong, which is shocking considering how much I was paying them. They were outsourcing all the work to foreign accountants who messed everything up. They weren't even doing it themselves. And it almost put me in a very, very precarious position. So get a good accountant. I recommend Coach Accounts for anyone that lives in the UK. Coach Accounts, Gareth, he's one of my friends. He's absolutely phenomenal. I get no benefit. In fact, Gareth definitely doesn't give me any benefit at all. Give him a shout out, but he is unbelievable. And there's a reason that they are the number 1 accountant for coaches within the UK, because they're incredible. Right? They are really, really good. And cannot recommend those guys enough. And just in that example where I said I had a bad accountant, Gareth came in, saved the day, saved me, honestly, probably about 20k's worth of tax. Which is terrifying that someone get it that wrong, and also obviously amazing that they deep dived in and got it right. And again, you can see a lot of these stories. I was very, very lucky on multiple occasions here. That could have easily been missed easily cost me a lot. And that was at the time where I was struggling to pay tax in the first place. So at that point in time, that was a huge, huge lifesaver for me, just from having the wrong consultant, the wrong accountant to the right accountant made all the difference. Number 6 was not tracking my metrics. The only metric I tracked was income, but I wasn't tracking my budget. I wasn't tracking anything I was spending money on, and I was really kind of blind to where the finances were in the business. Right, even just the fact that I had multiple subscriptions that I was just like, what the hell am I even paying for here? And when I went through, it's like saving hundreds of pounds just because of the fact that I'd never actually like gone and checked. Which, when I say it back, I cringe because I'm like, that's so stupid. And yeah, it's just when you think about it, you're like, why was I not checking the basic budget of my business? But now I'm like, yep, obviously we need to make sure we're checking those things. So always check my budget every single month, check all my invoices, check all the payments, run that through the accountancy. There's so many things that I see coaches not do. And I say to people, what are your overheads like? They're like, I don't know. Like, you need to find that out, because the lower you can get your overheads, the higher you can increase your profit margins, the more money you make, obviously. But the more profitable and more safe your business is. And if you know all these things and you can reduce overheads, increase cost, increase earnings, you're fine. And quite a lot of times, people might struggle to get clients. But if you're spending £1,000 on stuff you don't need in the business, and trust me, that sounds like a big number, but it's not. I see this time and time again, people are spending money on shit they don't need. If you can reduce your costs down by £1,000, for most people, that's the equivalent of 4 or 5 more clients from just being smarter with your money. So make sure that you are tracking the metrics, tracking your budgets within the business, because it's a mistake I made. And again, looking back, you just think, what a dumb mistake to make. Yet so many people aren't doing that thing. And number 7 is I didn't invest enough. I didn't invest anywhere near enough. Now, I had a pension from my previous job, my previous life. That was certainly something I'm glad I had. So I already had a base, already had a start of that. But so many coaches don't have a pension. And when I started coaching, I didn't really put enough aside. The first year, I didn't put anything in my pension. And I only wish I had. I'd be so much further ahead. And I wish I'd been smarter about where I spent my money, because I would have put more into my pension. And I'll tell you an example of that in a moment. But making sure that you invest, have a pension, or have some form of investments, whether that's property, ISA, 401k for my American listeners, anything like that will make such a huge difference to your long-term stability, because you're not going to be coaching forever. You're really not. So making sure that you are taken care of from a financial standpoint is going to be huge. And I just didn't do enough of this when I started. I really wish I did, but just to be completely honest, I didn't. I spent it having a good time, and I don't regret the having a good time bit, but I do wish I hadn't spent as much on that and saved more for my investments. Now, the story I wanted to tell was when I sold my M4. I was doing very well, in a good financial position within the business. Things were very, very good. A string of consecutive months, and I thought, I'm going to treat myself to a nice car. I'm going to get myself a Porsche Macan Electric. I'm going to treat myself to this, and I went through the process. Had a bit of a fallout with the garage because they were too salesy with me. Thought, I'm going to get an X5, BMW X5 hybrid. Okay, go through that process. And then I sat down with Gareth and I was like, what am I doing? Like, if we go and get a Polestar 4, which is still an amazing car, I absolutely love it to bits, it's not as exciting. It's not as a big brand. It's not as flashy. However, I will save around about an extra £1,000 I can put in my pension every single month. And when you start to math that out over the next 5 or 10 years, you're like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. For the duration of the lease, I could put an extra 36k minimum in my pension. And that's all for having as nice, a very lovely car, but it's just not a Porsche. You think, is that worth it? I go, absolutely worth it. And when you start to think like that, start to think about investments, start thinking of your long-term future, you start to make much better decisions in your business. And that's something that I definitely neglected at the start of my coaching career. And I look back now and I think, I was an idiot. I was such an idiot. But it's always good to talk about these things because someone else is going to learn from my mistakes. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do here. So those are the 7 biggest mistakes. And listen, I'm sure there's hundreds of micro mistakes within that I made, thousands perhaps. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to run a business to be as effective as possible. Still trying to stop making mistakes. Still do all those things right. However, hopefully this gives you guys a bit of an understanding of what not to do and what to do within a business to put yourself in the best financial position possible. And like I said at the start, if this is content that you guys enjoy, it delivers a lot of value, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. I'll give a quick shout out to the sponsors and my links. So if you want to check out my coaching academy below or Physique Collective, you can check them out. I won't big them up, but check out the links below. And my sponsors for peptides, supplements, and blood work. These are in the UK, so check them out. And I've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline soon. I will announce to you guys as soon as I am able. So thank you once again for listening, whether this is on podcast or YouTube. I really appreciate you. And I'll look to catch you in the next video or podcast.